Okay, how's this for our new Friday night lineup? 8 o'clock, Druids on Parade, then the Volcano Worshippers Hour, followed by Underwater Bingo for teens, and Fun with Dirt.
Why not?
How many times in your life have you been flipping through an endless amount of channels and finding nothing of interest to watch? Yeah, I know it's a cliche, but it is because it's 100% accurate. Years ago, I cut the cable cord. Channels like MTV no longer featured music, the History Channel no longer had shows about history. All of them went the route of reality shows, basically because they were dirt cheap to produce and appealed to the lowest common denominators of the viewing audience. As for the rest of the channels, I never was really into watching sports. What with growing up a young Saints fan in the 70s and 80s, they just killed all my interest. So there was about 15% of the channels that were useless to me. And the quote-unquote news channels just became soapboxes for either political party. Any real news was slanted and skewed to fit an agenda, and any event, no matter how minor, was blown way out of proportion to scare you into staying tuned after a word from our sponsors. Yellow journalism at its apex. Then you've got the channels like TBS and Comedy Central, who seem to air nothing but Friends and The Office on a continual loop. You do occasionally get good shows on TNT or AMC, but for most of the time it's heavily edited or censored versions of decent movies. So, over the air I went. Nothing really changed, but at least I wasn't paying over $100 a month for nothing to watch. Plus, I got the added bonus of endless lawsuits/personal injury lawyer commercials. Now, you can always stream your favorite movies and TV shows, but even then, most of the streaming services are continuously raising their prices and eliminating some of the oldest shows and movies available, and producing original content that has been, well, let's just say, a bit underwhelming. Alright, complete shit shows in a lot of cases. At home, I have a Plex server running, and thanks to having collected DVDs and Blu-rays over the years, I've amassed a sizable collection. In fact, since most people have been just donating their physical media, ditching them in favor of streaming to thrift stores, it's not uncommon to find a whole TV series box set on disc for about $5, and with programs like Handbrake and WinX DVD, it makes it super easy to rip them. But having grown up in the age before on-demand streaming, there's just something satisfying about flipping channels and finding something you genuinely like being shown. So I decided to create my own TV channel. Unfortunately, it's not going to be like the U62 and Weird Al's classic UHF. I'd have to produce my own shows for that one. But apparently, I'm not the only one who felt this way. There are a bunch of other videos on YouTube and online tutorials for creating a TV station. Well, I'll call it what it truly is. It's just a scheduled playlist. But using a Raspberry Pi, VLC media player, and your favorite shows ripped to digital from disc or by other nefarious means, you can create your own channel. Now, there are two ways to actually watch this. The first, and by far the easiest, is to have a Raspberry Pi connected to one of the HDMI inputs of your TV. Just treat your input selection button on your remote as an access button directly to your channel. The other, and way more complicated, is to actually broadcast it using a video modulator and then tune it in via an older analog tuner function of your TV. Newer sets may not even be able to do this, as they may only be able to tune into the digital over-the-air channels. So you need that modulator and an older TV. I may do this eventually, but for now, we're just going to focus on the least expensive and more practical way of doing this. The first thing you'll need is a Raspberry Pi. Now, I've tried it with a Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, but some of the videos were kind of choppy, so I went with the Raspberry Pi 4 with the 4 gigabytes of memory. The only inconvenience in going with the Model 4 is that you'll need a micro HDMI to regular HDMI adapter, but that's really no big deal. There are just a few bucks on Amazon. You'll also need a micro SD card for the OS. I just used a 64 gig that I had lying around, but you really only need enough space to install the Raspbian OS. I think 8 or 16 gigs are the minimum, but it's always good to have that extra space for added video files and background images. All of the media files are going to be on external storage. I got a SanDisk 512 gig from Amazon during their Prime Day sale, but memory prices only keep dropping, and even a 1 terabyte external USB drive are about $100 now. The only thing to keep in mind is that the Raspberry Pi can only read external drives formatted in FAT32, so you'll need to format them before putting your media on them. I used a program called, surprisingly enough, FAT32 Format. I'll put a link below so you can download it. It's freeware and it works like a champ. So, with all that being said, let's get started.
What's up, nerds? Welcome to a travel edition of the show. I'm in Georgia right now at my company's corporate headquarters doing some training, so I have some free time on the weekend, so I'd figure I'd show you how to create your own TV station. I touched on it during my last video about making that little retro test bench TV. So I have some time, and we're going to show you how to do that. All you really need is a Raspberry Pi 4, maybe a thumb drive, and an SD card to put the OS on. I have my little Raspberry Pi here, which is heavily modified, and I'll get into all of this mess later because subtlety is not in my vocabulary. So the first thing we need to do is get a little SD card, like so. It's kind of hard to focus in, and the light's not very good, but you know what an SD card looks like. Now we get an adapter, and we're just going to pop it in a little SD slot here, or you can use any kind of SD to USB adapter if your computer does not have one. And it's going to throw up all kind of formatting errors because I previously had this one formatted for a different version of Raspberry Pi. So what you want to do is actually go and navigate to raspberrypi.com/software. I'll see if I can get that up there. That's where you need to be, and I'll link it below. And what they have is a disk imager, and it makes it dirt simple to download and install Raspberry Pi software onto your Raspberry Pi. So we're just going to scroll down. We're going to download it for Windows since that's what it's going to be on. And we're going to save it. And what this does is install. Next, yep. I'm going to finish. Let's try it. Okay. So what it does, it automatically pulls the files it needs from the Raspberry Pi website based on what you choose. So we have a Raspberry Pi 4. We're just going with regular Raspberry Pi OS 64-bit, and we're putting it on the little SD device, 62.7 gigs. The 250 is my external USB thumb drive that I have a whole bunch of files on. So I know 62, it says 64, but you know they always compensate wrongly or whatever. Who knows? So that's where it's going. And all you do is start it. Would you like to apply custom OS settings? And I would say yes if I've done it before, if I have existing Raspberry Pis, and that's where you can set up your Wi-Fi passwords, things like that, country that you live in, time zones, things like that. But I'll walk you through that. You don't have to do that right now. So would you like to apply it? No, we would not. All existing data would be erased. Yes. Go ahead. Now this may take a while, so what I'm going to do is fast forward this in post and let you guys enjoy some music. Go grab a beer. Go do something else. It'll be done in a couple of seconds to you. Okay, that only took about 15 or 20 minutes. I mean, it's putting a whole OS onto an SD card. So depending on your computer speed, it may take a little while longer or a little while shorter. This is an older laptop, so it is going to run a little bit slower than normal. So basically, you can now remove the SD card. So we're going to remove it. And for now, we are done on this guy here. Okay, Raspberry Pi is ready to go with the SD card installed. And this is going to kind of mess with the iris, but here's a screen you get when you first start up a Raspberry Pi. And basic, simple, hello, welcome to the wonderful world of Raspberry Pi-ness. Yeah, whatever, next. Country, we are in the US of A. American English, you damn right. Time zone, I have no idea where ADAC is, but we're central. Even though I'm in Georgia right now, which is technically Eastern, this is coming back home with me, so I'm setting it up for home. I want to use English language, yes, and a United States keyboard, yes. So now, setting up the location. May take a few seconds, so I'll give a little history on this TV set. It's a brand called Viore. I don't know if you can see it down there. Found this at a local thrift store for $5. Couldn't be tested because they said they didn't have a cord. So I just looked around the thrift store and with about 3 minutes of searching, found a cord that fits, plugged it in, and so I got this TV, which is almost an exact setup of the test monitor retro TV I have. Same inputs, but this has the bonus of a built-in DVD player. And what's even better about it, what's even better about it, it takes a while to eject. Well, when it ejects, I will, I don't know, maybe you have to select it. Anyway, okay, spoiler alert, it came with a DVD of Watchmen in it, so I got a free movie. So that was $5. Now we're going to create a user, and we're just going to name this the TV station. WAAB stands for Atomic Age Brewing or Broadcasting, I guess it could be, like the channel. So Atomic Age is the name, like I said, I use for my homebrew brewery. My home studio is Atomic Age Studios. This is going to be Atomic Age Broadcasting to go along with the YouTube channel. So username and our password, I'm just going to go with something easy. Because if you use the default Raspberry and Pi, you'll get a warning every time it pops up. Oh, this is a default name. This is a default user. You got to change it. And when you start up your little TV station, you'll get that pop up every time. So AB, and I don't know, let's see if we can use the caps lock is off. You know what? The hell with it. We'll just use PASSWORD. Nobody will ever guess that one. ASSWORD. Although it is more complex than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life. That's the kind of thing an idiot would have on his luggage. Thank you, Your Highness.
Okay, hit next. Oh, must be lowercase. Whatever. So we're just gonna. Everything's lowercase. How's that? Okay, now here's another thing. Look at that. We have a Wi-Fi called WAAB, and yet another. Well, not thrift store. There's this really cool used electronics and laptop and whatever store outside of Kennesaw. And this was in a bin that said everything in this bin $5 a piece. And it's an older router, but it was $5, came with a power supply. They didn't know if it was working. Guess what? I just did a factory reset. Works like a champ. So we have this right here. So we'll pick this. Just establish our local network because I don't want to put on a hotel network. And let's see if I can remember what I made the password. That's the funny part. But it would help if I click the tab. Let's see. Oh, I know what it was. I keep forgetting that you cannot use a numeric keypad like this guy here. I know, God, I know this is disgusting, but this is just old dirt. It's nothing more. I grabbed this out the attic before I left. You cannot use this keypad on a Raspberry Pi, even if you have the number lock enabled. They won't recognize this at all. So you've got to stick with this half of the keyboard. Yeah, I know this is upsetting me, but like I said, it's just dirt from being up my attic and dust and time. So we're gonna go next, connect to the Wi-Fi network, and it's probably gonna say you don't have internet, which I know because I didn't want to hook into the hotel. Choose browser. We'll go Chromium. Click here to uninstall the unused. Yeah, I'm not going to use Firefox. Clear up some room. Enable Raspberry Pi as a service. Let's just secure remote access Raspberry Pi from any computer. We will check that, even though it's not going to be. There's another setting we need to change. Update software we're going to skip because we're not connected to the internet right now. And it's going to throw up all kinds of errors and complain. So we skip that one. And if installing updates, the unused browser will not be installed. Whatever. We're ready to go. We're going to restart. Boom. So this may take a few minutes. If it takes a while, I'll speed it up in post and you'll hear some groovy music. If not, just hang tight. All right. That was nice and quick. This is our IP address. We're going to kind of have to remember that, but we can look that up later on if I don't remember. But 192.168.0.199. That'll change over time. So yeah, you got this basic startup screen with a taskbar up top, which you can go into. Oh, didn't want to do that. I want to desktop preferences. It's gonna take a few seconds to think because I think it's still booting up some files and all. Come on. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Just took a few clicks. Menu bar, we're going to put at the bottom. Oh, look at that. Let's see if we can make it medium. See how far small will get us. Well, sure it's taking its sweet time. All right. Yeah, small's good. I can see what I'm doing. Text color, yeah, it's a nice contrast. System, that's just basic. Well, here's where you can customize it to your likings, your defaults. But right now, I'm going to fill it with image right now, and we're going to keep the old guy on the boat. And let's see, I don't really want the wastebasket, but I want to keep the mounted discs. So when we start creating our playlist, it'll be a lot easier to drag and drop. Okay. Oh, I just said I didn't want the wastebasket. All right, I guess it unchecked itself. So let me get my list of instructions because I don't have them written down and I'm going to sound like a stammering idiot, which I do normally anyway. So let me just take a small break and I will be right back. Okay, well, I have it booted up. It came up. It'll normally come up with a picture of, it's not going to be this one. It's a just generic Raspberry Pi background. It might be some mountains or it might be a little guy on a boat. The picture that it had was a little guy on a boat. It was a really dark picture, so my phone and the dim lighting of this hotel room, it could never focus. So I went ahead and changed it. And the way you can do that, you just right-click your desktop and go into Preferences. And desktop picture, we want, you just click that, and this is my hard drive that has all my files on it. So I just have I made a 1080, whatever, 1920 by 1080 in Photoshop and saved it so it fits perfectly. And you just hit open and down there, and that'll do it. Continuity alert. You'll notice there is a different TV now. The Viore, which was some off brand, kept spazzing out on me. I guess it was something to do with the refresh rate of the Raspberry Pi. It was just acting horribly after a while. So I ended up redonating that back and picking up the Samsung with the same amount of inputs, but unfortunately, it didn't have a built-in DVD or a free movie inside of it. But from here on out, it worked like a champ. Also, it should have, I enabled it. The wastebasket's usually there, but I disabled it because I don't know, I don't want that. I just don't like having a cluttered screen. But I do keep the mounted discs checked because it's a lot easier to access when you go to, well, actually, let me just drag it down here a little bit so it's easier to see. I know gray on gray makes it so much easier. It'll make it easier when we start creating playlists. You can just open it up real quick and drag and drop. Also, the menu bar is up there, and any window user knows it's going to drive them crazy. So we're going to put the bottom where we're used to. Boom. And I'm going to make it very large just for now, so it makes the instruction process a little bit easier. You can see what I'm clicking on down there. We hit OK. So now the first thing to do, let's see if I can set this back down and get an angle now that we can see the toolbar and stuff. There you go. It's kind of close. And it's got the wide angle on it, so it's going to be kind of weird aspect, but it works for what I've got. We're going to you've got to make VLC, which is the media player, start up as soon as Pi starts. You want VLC running. That's going to be the backbone of this whole project. So the way to do that, go into File Manager, and you want to make sure you go to View up here, and go to View, and you want to show your hidden files. If you have them hidden, look, half of them disappeared. So Let's see them. Show you hidden, because we're looking for this fella right here, config. And what we want to do is we want to add a folder called auto start. It's not going to be there. We just right click, new folder, auto start. Bam. And that's like the Windows equivalent of the old startup folder, where you can just drag and drop shortcuts to programs and it would automatically start right after you boot. So, we have auto start going. And just like I described with Windows, we're going to drag and drop sound and video, VLC. That's, like I said, that's going to be the backbone of this whole project. So VLC is going to start up. The only thing is, it's not going to show anything. We don't want that. We want it to run a file. So what we have to do is actually, we're going to have to make a playlist. And I'm going to show you how to make playlists, because you're going to need to do that for the scheduling purposes. So we'll just start VLC. Sometimes it'll start up with the player and you'll have to go to view playlist, but I already had it played before. So yeah, playlist comes up first. So this screen will come up if you click view playlist, and we're going to put it over here, go open up our hard drive over here. And you want a video to run you want to make your own video or have something like filler for about an hour, because if you say you start your PuTTY up at like 4:17 in the afternoon, it's not going to play what you have scheduled at that time. It'll either play nothing or just play something randomly. It's just like the first time it starts up, and then at 4:30 or 5, whenever your next playlist program comes up, then it'll kick into your regular schedule. But you want to have something kind of in between. So I made just a startup file here. And it's basically a still picture of, I created like a logo screen for the fictitious thing. And in the background and music, I have a whole selection of songs from Weird Al's movie soundtrack to UHF, which is an awesome album. It's an awesome movie. He's an awesome guy. And so that'll start up as soon as we fire up the PuTTY. So now it's in the playlist. We have to save it. So we right click, save playlist to file. This is going to go, your default is your home/PuTTY folder. And that's where all the playlists are going to end up. We're just going to name this startup and save it. So if you go to home, this is media, but if you were to go to home, PuTTY, there's startup right there. And that looks nice and good, but we have to assign it to VLC to start up. Otherwise, it won't play anything. So go to home and PuTTY. We can close this out here. We're done with that for now. If we go to config, auto start, we right click this and go to properties. And this is the properties of the VLC that runs. Now, if we go to desktop entry, that will, it'll issue a command, say, okay, start up VLC. And what we want to do is change the file name, because it has started from file and it has just percentage or %u. I'm just going rid of that. It's just a placeholder. That might mean something in Linux. I have no idea. But we're just going to put the location and the file name, which was, it was in home /PuTTY /startup dot. And you know what? I completely forgot the I forgot the file extension XSPF. XSPF. Yeah, no, Linux uses all these weird file extensions. So yeah, so the command is to start a VLC with this playlist going. So we hit OK. That's ready to go, and we're going to reboot to make sure that happens. Now, word of warning: when it reboots, it's going to be off center. It's never going to be full screen off center right around. We've got to make some adjustments. So just hang tight. We're going to reboot it, and yeah, just give it a couple of seconds. Okay, so it's going to boot up now. I've got to find a way to disable all of that boot screen texts. It does no good. I mean, I guess if you were trying to debug it or something, but it's going so fast, you're not going to be able to read anything. So there's playlist starts, and oh, look at it. It did open up full screen. Okay, I lucked out. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. But in case it doesn't, we're going to cut out of here, get close, pause this guy here. And the way to adjust that, or maybe I set this ahead of time, you go to Tools, and it takes a little bit, it's still thinking. And you want to go to Preferences. Two things you want to change when you do that is when you go, first thing, subtitles and OSD, you want to, this is going to be checked off originally. Show media file title on start. And every time you have a new episode that pops up in big white letters across, is going to be the file name. And it's, if you have it named for like your Plex server, it's going to look like garbage. And I just disable that. It looks a lot cleaner and nicer. In video, there it is. I already checked it off. Display, normally this is not checked. That's why it'll be off center. It'll be out in the middle of nowhere. You want it to start in full screen. So make sure those are all checked off. So save. We can get out of, actually, we want to show you how to do a playlist. So we're going to view playlist. And drag this over, make this a little bit bigger. I can stop this. I had it paused, but here we go. Let me see if I can get this. There you go. Maybe that'll hold. It's like being in a front row of an iMac screen. I apologize, but this is all I got to work with today. So let me drag this so I can see my little hard drive easier. Open this up. We're going to create a playlist. Every show needs its own playlist. And the way to do that is you have to open up and just drag all the files in here. We're going to start with a show that only had one season, which is like Firefly, unfortunately. Only one season. We just select them all. You just, click your left click and drag your mouse, or you can click one, hit Control A and select all, drag it over. Actually, we wanted to remove this one. Remove selected. Or actually, we can just clear it all, start all over, Clear the playlist. We'll just start all over. Pretend this is clear. You want this to be clear, otherwise it's gonna throw that other startup file in the mix. So you want this to be nothing but Firefly. There we go. Right click in here, and we want to save the playlist to file. Hopefully you guys can see that. Save playlist to file. And it's going to save it into your home PuTTY directory where your startup is. And I'm just going to name this guy Firefly. I like to keep it all lowercase, no spaces. That way you don't have to worry about, did I capitalize this, that, or the other, because it has to match up exactly when you create your playlists. And yeah, it makes it a lot easier. So save it. So that's a show with one season. So we'll clear this, clear the playlist. I'm going to pick another one with multiple seasons to show you how to do that one. So let's see. Let's pick Mr. Show. 4 seasons, or 5 if you count the one that came on Netflix, which I kind of do. So you can't just drag and drop a folder. You have to do all the individual files. There may be a way to do that, but I've never gotten it to work. So it's a little time consuming, but hey, you're sitting down, dragging and dropping. You're not digging a ditch or something out in the heat. Season 2, pick all of these guys, drag and drop. Go to season 3, all the guys, drag and drop. And season 4, pick all the guys, drag and drop. And you can, scroll down this guy here and confirm that you got season 4. I'm going to put the other one in here. The other show was called With Bob and David on It came on Netflix one time, just 4 episodes, but that's kind of a mini Mr. Show updated. So we'll just throw those in the mix as well. But we're gonna come over here, right click, save playlist to file, and we're gonna call this one just Mr. Show. Save. Now, let's clear this. And we're gonna go up. Now, in I guess reminiscent of older TV stations where they would actually sign off at like midnight and be off the air until like 5 or 6 in the morning. They would actually run a little, like the national anthem, like a little message and things like that. And when they would start up, they would run like a little video that was produced in house of local, just the local lifestyle, I guess you can call it. So I kind of made my own based on, you can go on YouTube and see a couple of examples of them. So we're just going to I made one called Sign On. And we're just going to make it its own separate playlist. Sign On. Clear it. And we're going to do a sign off. Let's see, sign off here. So we have a sign on and a sign off. And I also made a file called technical difficulties, which would run after the sign off. It would just be a bunch of goofy stuff followed by like a test pattern. And then that would segue into 5 hours of early 90s infomercials overnight, which would be shown. It's overnight. You don't have anything really quality. So I think it was this one. I'll have to check. Because this guy here. Yeah, this is a shorter one. So we'll save playlist to file. Oop. Technical difficulties. Okay. You also want to kind of keep track if you are making your own videos like this, like a sign on, sign off. Try and kind of keep them to a rounded number. I know my sign on might be like 2 minutes and 55 seconds or something like that. And when you go to schedule, you can only do it in so many, like, I think minute increments. You can't really do seconds. So you might have a few seconds of dead air, but it's better than a few minutes of total dead air, or you're repeating the same sign on over and over again. So when kind of keep that in mind and kind of keep the duration in mind. You might want to write that down when you're making your scheduling, so you know at what time, say like your sign on is at 5 o'clock. Okay, so you know your duration is like 4 minutes. So at 5:04, you kick in your cartoons or something like that. So kind of, you might want to jot all that stuff down when you're making your playlist. So that's it. I'm just going to do all of these guys now, and I'll come back and I'll show you where they all are. Just repeating the same process of dragging and dropping. And I know my Twilight Zones and my Saturday morning cartoons are going to take forever. So I'm not going to subject you guys to that. So I'll be back when they're all done. One more thing. I'm not connected to the internet, so my time and date never really gets set. And you need the right time and date when you're making your scheduling. And you would think you would just be able to click this or right click it and adjust it, but no, it's Linux. So you guessed it, it's a command line. So the command line you want to type in is sudo space. Where do I see that at? Oh, of course, I sudo. Let me see it. Let me get a little bit closer. Sudo dot date space minus s. Now here's where it gets a little tricky. You got to do apostrophe, not quotes, just the apostrophe. The year 2024 dash the month 09 dash the date 14th space and a time. It's got to be military. So add 12. Before noon, it's all right. Afternoon, you just add 12 to whatever it is. So it's 19 colon, and right now it's 45, and we'll just do 30 seconds, round number. So that should be it. And you hit enter, and that sets your date. It is now Saturday, September 14th, 7:45 in the p.m. and Central Daylight Time, 2024. So that's how you set the time without internet connectivity down there. So that reflects it. We're good to go. So get back to making playlists. Okay. Does everybody have their playlist created? Good. I hope so. Let me show you what it should look like. Just go to your file manager. And since it opens up to your pretty much your home directory, they're all going to be right there in front of you. We've got everything from Always Sunny in Philadelphia to one of my favorite comedies of all time, The Young Ones. But they should all, have a name that you can remember. Take a screenshot when you enter it in Crontab, and you want to get the spelling and the file extension right. Otherwise, it'll freak out on you. So let's get into the scheduling. Go to the much loved terminal, and we're going to type this command in. Get a little bit closer here. Crontab space dash E. And what this does is basically a scheduler, not just for VLC, but any program you want to run on this, but it works perfect for the television station. So you scroll down after all these little notes, the little hashtag or pound signs indicate, documentation lines. So they're ignored by the programming. Okay, here's the kind of setup structure we have. This is the kind of format you want to do. You have, follow this one, minutes, then hours, day of the month, the day of the week, and the command. Now, right now, just for basics, I have all my shows running on the same schedule every day. So we start off at 0 minutes at 5 a.m. That's the beginning of the day. We, since it's every day of every month of every week, it's you put an asterisk, well, asterisk space, space, and then we run kill all VLC. That kills any or stops any program running. In this case, it's the VLC that's showing the previous show. It shuts that down, and you have to set your display to 0.0. So it's display equals colon 0.0. And that basically tells the Raspberry Pi to output it to your desktop and not another terminal monitor someplace else. And now we want to run the VLC program and then your playlist, which would be your home folder, Pi, and then your playlist, XPFF. So right now, I have at 5 in the morning, I have a sign on. Now I went ahead and put my whole schedule in. So I know my sign on is 3 minutes long, or it's like 2:55. So at 03 minutes at 5 a.m., every day of the month, every week of the month, every day of the year, I will stop whatever VLC is doing. And then same thing on this display, I will start showing all my cartoons. Okay. At 0 minutes and 7 hours, that's 7 a.m. to you folks, we have Speed Racer. At 9 o'clock, 09, every day of the week, I run King of the Hill, keeping with the animated theme. That goes for 2 hours. At 11 o'clock, I show the young ones. At noon, I show Taxi. At 1 o'clock, now you got to remember, the Pi uses military time. So add 12 to everything afternoon. So at 1 o'clock is Mr. Show. Then at 2 o'clock, we got Seinfeld for 2 hours. Then at 4 o'clock, we have Always Sunny in Philadelphia. At 6 o'clock, we've got an episode of Life on Mars. And then we go to the X-Files at 7. Then it goes into Twilight Zone after 2 hours of that. And Twilight Zone runs for 3 hours. And at midnight, we do the sign off. And then 5 minutes after that, at zero hour is midnight. 12 o'clock, or I don't know how many more terms I can use to describe what midnight is, but there it is, 0. 5 minutes after that, I run my little technical difficulty screen, just kind of a transition into the infomercials. And as 10 minutes after midnight, it'll keep running that until 5 a.m., where it gets killed off and replaced by the sign on, and the whole cycle starts over and over again. And when you're finished typing this all in, you hit Control X. You can do write out and save, but if you just do X, oh, I'm sorry, you got to make a change. So say I made a change, but let's see, I'm going to go Control 0. Control O, I'm sorry. File name, just hit accept, just hit enter, because you want to just keep it as your Crontab or Crontab. There. can't speak this morning. And that's it. And now you can hit exit, Control X, and you should be ready to go. And that should be it. There may be an error that'll pop up that VLC will throw up, that when you first start showing the video, sometimes you have codecs. It might have been encoded in a weird way that VLC doesn't really recognize, or you might have not a corrupt file, but it'll ask you to fix it or leave it alone. I think I have a frame of it right here, but I'm going to show you how to fix that. After you get that message that I threw up on the screen, you go ahead and you click the fix and run. Just let it go. But then you can pause this like I've done, because without any kind of decision on your part of what to do with the window prompt, it'll freeze the video. So you go ahead and just hit fix it and keep going. But I go ahead and always pause the video. And here's how to keep that from ever happening again. You go to your tools, your preferences, and in your input and codecs tab down here, it'll ask when you have a damaged or incomplete AVI file, it wants you to ask for it. Well, we want you to always fix it. And that's what I want VLC to do the work for me. I don't want to have to do that every single time. We know our files are good, especially if we watched them before. We know it's not going to screw up Raspberry Pi, so always fix them. And then with that, it may take a few days or so, about a day or so, for everything to sync up. I've noticed one time or a couple of times on a new installation, the shows ran, but the times were kind of wonky, but somehow they just kind of straightened themselves out. So in 15 minutes, that's because it's 8:45 in the morning now, we're watching Speed Racer. At 9 o'clock, King of the Hill should come on. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video minutes before, or seconds before that happens, and hopefully we'll see a change to King of the Hill. Okay, we're coming up on 8 o'clock, about 10 seconds away. So we're going to see if the timing and Crontab are all synced up here. There you go. It's switching in. It's fixing the AVI index automatically. And we have King of the Hill. All is right with the world. I'll tell you what. So now you've got your TV station running and your Raspberry Pi is mounted out of the way, maybe on the back of the TV set or kind of next to it or something like that. But it's inconvenient to lug a keyboard out if you want to add, modify your scheduling via Crontab. So this is where remote access comes in. So we need our IP address of the Pi, which we go down to the much loved command line. And we type, to get it, instead of typing ipconfig, which you would normally use in a command line in Windows, use ifconfig. All right, we've got ifconfig. And it's going to be this last set of packets you get. You get different, let's see, you'll get some here and you'll see some addresses. Your 127, but that's your home. You want this one right here. Your mileage may vary, like I said, depending on what network you're on, but this is going to be the address you want. That's the address of your Pi. 192.168.0.199 is mine. So just keep that guy in mind. We're going to come over here. Hopefully the reflections aren't so bad. It was throwing me off earlier and my autofocus was going crazy. So basically we're just going to come here and search for, well, there goes the focus. PuTTY, PuTTY, and Pi. And it should bring up like the first or second result. There you go, the second result. from PuTTY.org. So we get there, and we want to go ahead and download it, and it'll give you all the options. Use the very first one. That's Windows for 64-bit x86, unless you're hardcore and running on an older machine or something like that. Stupid focus. Okay. Go ahead and just save it. That's going to be the installer version. This one is 0.81. It may change over time depending how long after you watch this video from when it was created. And we're just gonna kind of click it and run it out of here. Close out this guy. We'll just run it here. Basically, I just keep all the default settings, except we want to add a shortcut because it makes it easier in the long run. More convenient. I'm all about convenience. Finish. Okay, README comes up and I read. Now, here's where that little router comes in. Right now, to get on the internet, I had to be on my hotel's Wi-Fi. But now, I want to switch over to my TV network, which will cut out all internet. I won't be able to download anything, but I will gain access to my Raspberry Pi. And it may take a while. I know my computer's old and she's a beast, but she's old faithful. It just takes a while to get her going. I'm going to open up Pi while that's changing. Now it's going to ask you for the address of our Pi. So it was 192.168.0.199. And we just hit open it. And it'll like, warning, potential security breach. Yeah, no, accept, because we know we're good. Log in. Well, we know our computer's name. Oh, come on, focus, you stupid idiot. Is Pi. And our password was our call sign. WAAB is what we set up in the setup. And that's kind of redundant to say, but yeah, you put that in. Now, the cursor did not move. Don't let that alarm you. That's a security precaution. So I guess if somebody's looking over your shoulder, they don't have any idea how long your password is. But I mean, we're getting into a Raspberry Pi that's showing reruns of Speed Racer. So whatever. Hit enter. There you go. You're at your command line. And this is the same command line as you would have popped up on the screen right here. So once you're in that command line, you can go into Crontab, E, and there you go. You get your schedule. You can change remotely. Say, okay, well, X Files runs too long. You'd be crazy for saying that, but just say you're a whack job like that doesn't like the X Files and you want to cut it down an hour. You can just go up and say, okay, Twilight Zone's going to start. I'm looking off the camera, not the screen. You can just say, unbound key. I'm using the cardinal rule of Raspberry Pis is you can't use number pads. For some reason, it does not like it. Every other computer in a free world will pick up on a number pad. Raspberry Pi has got to be a pain in the nuts. So, change that to 20. So now it'll start an hour earlier. But I like X Files and keep it like that. But you see, using the PuTTY, you can get in there and change the schedule. You can also get into any of the other command line settings, like you config text and things like that if you need to troubleshoot it. It's always good to have PuTTY, to have that remote interface so you don't have to drag a keyboard and a mouse to the back of your TV set and try and do things. Now, if you wanted to, add files to your hard drive, then you'd kind of have to, you can take your little thumb drive or hard drive out, hook it back to Windows and load it, but you would still have to get into VLC back into your Raspberry Pi itself. I don't think you can remote into the VLC to create a playlist. You'd have to do that there. But for minor adjustments and tweaking, you can use PuTTY. And we're just going to exit out, Control X, save modified buffer. No, I want, oh wait, I messed up because it's going to throw up an error because it didn't do time. Let me make sure it didn't save at that time of 2:11 instead of 21. Let's see, X files. Okay, everything's still set up. So we're just going to exit, Control X, and then we can just X out of this. Yep, lost connection. Go back here. We're going to X out of this guy and continue with our regularly scheduled program. Put it back in full screen. Now, here's another thing. When it's playing, pretty much first thing you want, if you like most TV shows, they're going to be in random order, unless it's an episodic show. Like X-Files, towards the end it got episodic, but for the most part it was a monster of the week kind of thing. And for a lot of shows, if you've seen enough time, you just want to have it on and going. So I like to have everything randomized, and it's jumps between all the seasons. So you just click this button once, and then you can just keep going, and that'll keep that in VLC's memory. So every video will be random in every season. So you'll have that going for you. Other than that, I mean, the most common errors you're going to get in this are, the Crontab. You have to make sure all of that is completely laid out. Make sure you got spaces in between certain things. You don't have any conflicts in time. Make sure you're naming your playlists correctly, and your names in Crontab match the names you have in your home folder for them and the file extension. Otherwise, it'll throw up an error like that. We'll addendum to this video. We're going to build a shutdown button. And what that does, it makes it easier to turn off your Raspberry Pi if you want to remove your drives or whatever to add to your library. Now, there is no built-in button, and the only way to really shut it down, you could use a command line if you're that sadistic, with a sudo shutdown command, or you can go to your little Raspberry icon, log out, and shut down. But we don't say this is on the back of the TV. You don't have to plug in a mouse to do that. You just want to go ahead and shut it down. This will take care of that. What I did, I just have a momentary switch. You don't want it on off. You want a momentary, and you can get a pack of these of like a dozen from Amazon for like $5. And you're just shorting a circuit, so polarity doesn't matter. We have it hooked in to pins, I believe 9 and 11. Here's a diagram of it, and I will post a diagram or a link to the diagram below in the comments. Easiest way to remember this order anyway, is the odd number pins are towards the CPU, evens are towards the outside. They start up top and end below. So high, low, odd, even. So we have them in, I believe, 9 and 11. 9 is your ground, and 11 is GPIO number 17. Basically, what that's doing is it'll receive the signal. You'll close that, and the Raspberry Pi will see, oh, GPIO 17 is active. Let me initiate a shutdown sequence. So to do that, we have to go into the lovely command line and edit the configuration text. Come on, get over here. Now, to get to the configuration text, we type in sudo. I'll tell you what, let's make this a little bit bigger. Control-Shift-Plus will make it a lot easier for me to show. Make sure you get your spaces right, because if you miss one space or something, it'll never work or it'll throw up errors. So it's sudo space nano space /boot /firmware /config.txt. It used to be just .boot /config.txt, but for reasons they decided in the latest couple of versions of the OS to put it in yet another subfolder. So we just type this in. You can pause it and write this down or something, or who knows, and enter. This will bring up your config file. This starts up when Raspberry Pi starts up, and it actually has a lot of valid settings and things like that for your Pi to start up. You can actually kind of read what some of these do. Like this one will enable audio. So if you for some reason wanted your audio on, you could type off. Some of these parameters, instead of on and off, you'll have 1 or 0, 1 being on, 0 being off. Yeah, it's kind of cool to just go through and see what each one does. But we just want to go down to the end where I've already put it in the command line you want. At the very end, and you can word it whatever you want. I did a little hashtag shutdown button, and this is where the code's going to go. So if I ever need to find out where it is, the little comment makes it easier. This is the command you're going to want to put in, is your DT overlay equals GPIO shutdown. That means, okay, we're setting up one of your inputs to shut down a machine. And that input is going to be GPIO pin 17, which is actually pin number 11. Why they assigned the numbers mismatched? Well, welcome to the wonderful world of Linux where nothing makes sense. So even though you're pin 11, it's actually GPIO 17. Comma, active equals low, meaning that it's always it's open. Basically, it's an open switch. But when you pull, that means it's closed and up, it'll activate that shutdown sequence. So there are no spaces you have to worry about, but there are a little, the underlay or whatever the name for it is, the little minus sign on the ground, underscore, that's what it is. Because if you don't have those correct, oh yeah, this won't work, and you'll be telling yourself, what the hell is going on? So you put that in, and you can control 0 to write out or save, as the rest of the world calls it. Hit enter, and then we're just going to exit. Now, sometimes you may have to reboot to get it working. So I've already rebooted it. We're in here. I'm going to X out of the overlay here. Out of the command line here. Let's see. Come on. And we're going to hit the switch. Now, what it used to do is automatically shut it down. But now it brings up your shutdown menu. And what you have to do is hit your button again, and hopefully it's on shutdown. And you hit it again, and it should start shutting it down. But that's just another annoying feature they put in. I don't know why they made it more complicated. You think they would make it less complicated, but I guess too many users complained that it wasn't frustrating enough. Let's add another step in there. So yeah, after you put that code in, just do a normal reboot the way you normally would, and then test it out. Press it once, it brings up the menu. Press it again, should shut it down. And that's it. Now you can shut down your Raspberry Pi with this little button here. Up. Now, you can't turn it on like that, because why could you? Anyway, that's why this little Cana kit power supply has a push button that you can just turn it off, turn it on again, and that starts it up. See, I like Raspberry Pis because they're relatively inexpensive and they're small, and you can do a lot of things, but they can be a pain in the ass sometimes. But I think that's more the fault of just Linux itself by nature. Yeah, if you haven't gotten anything out of this video, get the fact that I just hate Linux, hate dealing with it. It's for people who love coding and doing all this stuff, going through a lot of extra steps. I'm an idiot. I like just a nice graphical user interface, and let's go. So that's how you shut down your system. So long, Georgia, and your huge KFC Robo Chicken. Back home, it's a week later. I went to install the Raspberry Pi, and I kind of noticed I didn't like all the clutter and exposed wiring in here. So, keeping up with tradition, we're going to redo this whole thing anyway, halfway through a project. I mean, this might be the second or third time we decided, or I decided, we're using the royal version of Wii now to redo this. So, instead of the kind of janky power through an exposed transformer, I made this little guy here, a handy box outlet, and it kind of just plugs into the back here. That way, when we remove the back, this guy can come out and we still have total access to everything. But that's not going to move. And I made this little monstrosity to connect to the monitor. It's got the IEC on one end to plug in right here, and this Dollar General hardware special. Didn't have to be anything industrial. We're just powering this little monitor here. And for the Raspberry Pi, we're going to use the tried and true CanaKit power supply. It works beautifully, no errors, nothing exposed. Beautiful. Now I'm debating or not on whether using the hard drive that we used in the past. I mean, there's plenty of room to mount it, but I'm going to need another outlet for the adapter. So to get around that one, I'm going to show you how to network this to my Plex server, so we don't need to have a big old hard drive down there. I'll keep a few little files here, like my intro and the sign on and sign off videos, but the majority of all the other shows, they'll be coming in directly over the network, so there's no need for big old hard drive. So that's up next for setup. And now I'm going to show you how to basically use Plex as the source for your streaming files for your retro TV station. I mean, this actually works a little bit better and is a little bit more convenient if you already have Plex set up, because you eliminate the need for having, external storage. And, in my case, I had that 2 terabyte hard drive, and it's kind of cramped for space inside that little TV set. So streaming the shows directly off of the Plex server is ideal because Plex is pulling it off of your shared network drive anyway. It's just acting as almost like an intermediary between your Raspberry Pi and the shared folder on your network. So first thing you do is have to have Plex running. Now, it's going to take a whole nother video or so to show you how to do that. And besides, there are way better tutorials online about how to install and configure Plex. Basically, it's a free program. I mean, there is a premium option, like all things. And I think the premium just lets you stream your shows remotely from like wherever you are. If you have internet access anywhere, you can stream your own shows. But since I just use it at home, I'm going with the freeware. So you download Plex, put it on your PC, and set up the server program. And basically, you just point to where your shared drives are, and you add your TV shows and your movies, and you can do music and pictures and all that other good stuff. And most smart TVs now, and like Chromecast and Roku, they'll offer the Plex app as a client, and that's how I watch all my stored up files on my TV and stuff. So we're going to apply that, but we're going to use VLC to create a playlist using the shows that it has access to. So basically, when you install Plex, you have to configure it to where it can be seen like on the network. So just go into settings right here. And what you want to do, sorry, I don't have a TV capture card. I'm just going to
point and shoot. Basically, you want to go to your DLNA right here. And what does that stand for? It stands for Digital Living Network Alliance. I have no idea what that is. Basically, you want to enable a server. That way, VLC can see your Plex server in its list of sources. So that's all you have to do when you have Plex all up and running. Go to Settings, DLNA, and enable it. And you're done with that one. So just X out. Well, you have to X out of here. Let's go to VLC and show you how to access it. Back on the old retro TV here. Going to show you how to set up, well, not set up, but how to access the Plex via VLC and get your playlist going. So we just start up VLC. And I have it to where my playlist comes up automatically. You could always go to View and go to Playlist, and it'll go right to it. So before we had this window kind of half minimized and our Windows Explorer opened up with our hard drives and thumb drives and just dragging. God, that's grammatically garbage. Dragging and dropping this each season. We'd have to open up the folder for season 1, click them all, drag them, drop them, and then right click and save that as a playlist. With this, instead of going to having to use your file explorer, we're just going to go down here to local network, universal plug and play. It's searching, and right there, boom, it found Plex Media Server, and it's on my Eric computer right there. Sorry about the zoom and focus kind of things going on right there. Eventually, I'll have to get a screen capture card. So we want to open that up. We want to go to the videos on it. We want to go to the TV shows on it. Now, I'm going to go to all of my shows. And this will list every show you have down there. So let's make one for Breaking Bad. I haven't done that one yet. Since that's going to be a lot of episodes, open that one up. Now, like I said before, we would have to open up, when we had the external storage, open up each season, click them all, drag them and drop them. But this gives us the option to get all the episodes listed in one setting. We just click the first one, scroll down, click the glorious finale, and we're going to add that to our playlist. And if you see right now, our playlist is currently at 0.0. We have nothing on it. And now it's populated, almost 50 hours of the best TV show ever made. So we go to our playlist, and there they all are. And just like before, we're going to save it to file. And since we're keeping everything on our main folder as before, it's not going to affect anything that we've already done with the Crontab. All our playlists are still going to be in the same place. Just name this Breaking Bad. Boom. There you go. Now, here's where it gets really easy. You just clear the playlist and go back and make another one. It's a lot quicker than using the external storage. And this kind of keeps it in memory, not memory, but it'll highlight what you used last, so it's a lot easier to navigate. All shows, and we're going to do Better Call Saul, because why not? Keeping the theme here. And boom. And we're going to add this. Notice our playlist is reset back to 0. Just had to clear it. Add the playlist, and now we have 52 hours. Go to our playlist, right click, and save the playlist to file. And I'm just going to shortcut it and call this Saul. And there you go. You do it for as many shows as you want, since you don't have to rely on storage constraints of your Raspberry Pi. You can make all the playlists in the world you want to. I mean, they're just little configuration files. And that's it. And then you go back into your Crontab and do your editing and scheduling and things like that. And it works like a champ. And in fact, in a few minutes or so, it should be, I don't know, what do I have coming up at 9 o'clock on Crontab?
I'm not too sure. Something's going to come up. I'm actually just going to keep this running and maybe fast forward it until it kicks in, because I already redid my playlist since I've gotten home to put on, I guess, to redirect all of my playlist files to my Plex server. So I think 9 o'clock. Forgot what it is, but just hang tight. We'll fast forward this. You get the cool little retro music. All right, here we go. And we're watching Get a Life with Chris Elliott. Absurdist comedy, almost at its finest. So yeah, it's pulling this one off of the Plex server. There is no lag or anything like that. You'd think because it's not locally stored on a USB thumb drive, it would take a little bit going to your network, but I mean, there is really no difference in time. So now, I think I say this, I'm done with this project. Your retro TV station, retro TV, good to go. Just keep this running the whole time. I'm going to end it on that shot, but whatever. And that's all, folks. So enjoy, have fun making your own TV station. Who knows? Maybe I'll make Wheel of Fish or Raoul's Pet Kingdom down the line if I ever win the Powerball and have the ability to produce my own shows. So with that being said, you guys enjoy TV. Take it easy.